AI is here, and it's not going anywhere. So naturally, we wonder, how can AI help distribute power to the people? Welcome to Future Hindsight, where we take big ideas in civic life and democracy and turn them into action items for you and me. Because democracy is not a spectator sport, and tomorrow starts right now. I'm Mila Atmos. In a time when we are inundated with deepfakes and conspiracy theories, it's easy to want to reject the use of AI in our society. And to make the case for AI that both serves the public interest and advances the goals of our democracy, we are joined by Bruce Schneier. He's an internationally renowned security technologist, chief of security architecture at Inrupt Inc., a lecturer at Harvard Kennedy School, and the author of 14 books. His latest, co-authored with Nathan Sanders, is Rewiring Democracy: How AI Will Transform Our Politics, Government, and Citizenship. And before we start, if you want to support Future Hindsight, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's easy and free and a great way to build your civic action toolkit every week. Head to youtube.com/Future Hindsight to subscribe after the episode. Welcome, Bruce. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So let's start by defining how we're going to talk about AI in the context of democracy today. You argue that democracy is an information system. What does that mean?
What I mean is democracy is a system for figuring out what to do. It collects information about individuals' preferences and then produces an outcome. What should the policy be in any case? You know, all systems of government are information systems in this way. A monarchy, we figure out what to do we do whatever the king says. In democracy, we do whatever the people want. You know, that's a very broad definition, through these systems of collecting individual preferences and tallying them up in some way. So I'm really thinking about democracy as this system of collecting information and producing different information.
So let's talk about how AI is reshaping the way that we make decisions. The title of your book is Rewiring Democracy. So if AI is a tool for making decisions, then what is AI rewiring and how does it do that?
Let's talk about AI very generally. And by this, I don't just mean chatbots. I don't just mean generative AI. A lot of the most interesting things happening in this technology are different types of AI. So these are systems that, at a very broad level, mimic human thought, human cognition. So they are, in some sense, replacements for people in some limited sense. And it might be very limited. You know, reading a chest x-ray. A human radiologist can do that, and an AI system can do that. And then we can look at, who's better at it and under what circumstances. So in this sense, what AIs are power-enhancing technologies. They give me as a person more capabilities. Like using that tool, I can read chest x-rays. Using that tool, I can write a book's worth of text in a few seconds. I can sort people and look for those who might want to support my candidacy. So these are all ways that the technology can broadly affect the democratic systems we have today. And there are many different areas where it can affect things. And this is not about deep fakes, not about fake news. I think that's very much a red herring. These are about all the very human ways we do democracy and how this technology can magnify them.
Mm-hmm. You pinpoint specifically 4 things that can magnify human capacity. So AI has something beyond what human can do in terms of speed, scale, scope, and sophistication. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So I think this is really important. We call them the 4 S's. And what we're trying to say is that the computer doesn't have to be better than the human in order for it to be useful. It could be better in one of four very specific areas: speed, scale, scope, and sophistication. So, for example, a trained human is much better than an AI at figuring out what is spam and what is real email. But the problem is you get billions of emails and no human can do it. They're not fast enough. So even though the computer is worse, we use it because the speed is greater. Now, the scale of AIs producing individual emails or text messages. A human can write a more convincing email, but can't do it at the scale that an AI system can. So here, AIs are valuable. Now, AIs play more sophisticated game of chess than humans do. So there, the sophistication is what's valuable. And for all their problems, the sheer scope of their capabilities is far greater than any human. So it makes them valuable in that respect. So for depending on the application, one of those four things, speed, scale, scope, and sophistication, might lead us to use the computer instead of the human, even though the human might be overall better for the task.
Yeah, thanks for elaborating on that, because I think those are good examples to understand just how AI is enhancing our lives in ways that I think is already happening. I think you allude to this, of course, in the book, and it's a reality for all of us. One thing that you also just talked to is that deepfakes are a red herring. But at the same time, I think at this point, a lot of people, when they think about AI in the context, let's say, of elections, they can only think about deepfakes, or not only, but that's their first thought. And so I think for a lot of people, AI and democracy don't seem to hang together. It doesn't really make sense that they should be in the same sentence. You advocate for AI that both serves the public interest and advances the goals of our democracy. What does that mean to you?
So it means a couple of things. Power is the most important one. If the AI system distributes power, it's generally good. If it further concentrates power, it's probably bad. So there are AI systems right now that help people run for office. There's a lot of paperwork. There are things you have to do. There are AI systems that will enable individuals to file that paperwork and do the things they need to do to run for local office. Now, don't think Congress, don't think president here. Think of town council. Think of systems where nobody's paid, nobody has staff, nobody has budget. And to the extent that these AI systems allow for greater participation in our democracy, that's great. We're seeing AI systems that help legislators write law. France is building an AI model specifically for this purpose. That sounds, kind of weird, but right now in the US, lobbyists help legislators write law. And that's not good at all. If a legislator can turn to a more impartial AI for a first draft, I think that's a win. And notice what's happening here. It's a human going to an AI to produce a draft that is reviewed by a human, that is debated by humans, amended by humans, and voted on by humans. It's a really good example of AI assisting rather than taking over. There are lots of applications for AI in government administration. So an example we use is in the United States, applications for disability benefits. There's like a 2-year wait list because a human has to review those applications. So what if we built an AI system that was only allowed to say yes? Most of those applications are very easy yeses. It clears the backlog, and the humans do the hard cases. So here are examples, all of them, where AI is being used within democratic processes to make them more democratic. What matters is the humans. I could give you a similar set of examples of AI being used in autocratic governments to make autocracy more effective.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because I think that's what most people are worried about when they think about AI is autocracy. Tell us about how that would work.
If the government is doing bad things to its people, AI can allow the government to do that more effectively. Specifically, AI is really good at spying. When we had computers, we had bulk surveillance. So before computers, if I wanted to follow you around, I would need to hire a detective to follow you around. Today, I just need to get the data from your phone. Phone knows where you are at all times, and I can collect that data. And as a government, I can collect that data from every citizen. Right? I can do bulk surveillance. Any transactions, the phone calls you make, the things you buy, the places you go, it's all data, it's all collectible, all analyzable. But what I couldn't do is bulk spying. If I wanted to listen to any of your phone calls, I still needed a human to do it. But AIs are really good at listening in and summarizing. So AI-based spying is something that's new. And that's going to be a boon to autocracies everywhere. So when you look at the different technologies of AI and plug them into the human processes, which makes them either better in either speed, scale, scope, or sophistication, we can see how those processes change. And depending on the government, the ethics of the government or the corporation that's doing it, determines whether it's good or bad.
Right. It's in the application and who's using it. Both those examples are really good. One is that in a way, like you said, it makes democracy better. It makes government legitimate in the eyes of the user, of the people, the citizens, because government is delivering. And I think that's definitely a pro-democracy case. In terms of the example on spying, I'm a little bit surprised you used this example because I have not heard that AI is spying on our phone conversations. Do you need a warrant for that, though?
Depends on the country. In the United States, you mostly do. You move to a country like Russia and China, they have their own systems. Right? So the technology, again, depends on the human rules that govern its use. So let's think about AI avatars. We hear about them a lot in deep fakes, and I can make an AI avatar of you saying something you didn't say. Mm-hmm. But we're seeing AI avatars being used in democracies for good things. So in Venezuela, there are journalists who fear for their lives and use AI avatars to deliver the news. There was a politician in Pakistan that used an AI avatar to deliver speeches from jail. There was a candidate running for governor of Tokyo, and it was like this unknown kid used an AI avatar to answer thousands of questions in real time by constituents, came in 6 out of 50, and a couple of years later got elected to Japan's upper legislative house. So here are real politicians, real people using AI avatars legitimately in pro-democracy ways. Prime Minister of India, not a good example of democracy, but he's using an AI avatar to translate his speeches in real time to all the Indian languages. That's an amazing thing and incredibly powerful. And in a democracy like the United States, really important.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the sticky wickets, right, for elections, especially in the United States, where a lot of citizens don't speak English and they need all of the information about voting, where to vote, who to vote for, who the candidates are, translated. And often because they don't speak English, they just don't vote. But this could, in fact, empower everyday people to be political agents. So Future Hindsight is a show whose mission is to ignite a civic spark in everyone and take civic action. Concretely, how can AI empower everyday citizens as opposed to, let's say, the journalist or the politician?
This is part 5 of our book, where we talk about AI and citizens. And what we're seeing, and it's really interesting to watch, there are systems being built to enable citizens to engage with government. The early example comes from Taiwan, a system called Polis. It's very much like a social media site, would debate and discuss legislation. And AI assisted in many ways. It was doing summarizations. It was helping mediate. It was sort of allowing people to reach consensus. And if you think about it, it's not doing anything humans can't do. We just don't have enough humans to do it. And AI filled in that gap. Since Polis, there have been other systems. Make.org is a system used in the EU to facilitate large-scale citizen assemblies. There was a 500,000 person citizen assembly in Germany a couple of years ago. Again, facilitated by these AI systems. My home state of Massachusetts, there's a system called Maple, Massachusetts something platform for legislative engagement. I kind of got the acronym right. And this is allowing citizens to learn what the state legislator is doing, what the bills are, and allow citizens to submit comments using AI to assist them, to help citizens make their voices heard. And these are all phenomenal ways these tools are allowing people to engage. They're being used as watchdogs, as Cal Matters is a program and a website that collects every public utterance by California legislators, their floor speeches, fundraising emails, tweets, Facebook posts, YouTube videos, whatever they say, also collects who gives them campaign contributions and how they vote, uses AI to analyze and summarize all of this, and allows citizens to know what their legislators are doing. A perfectly reasonable task that a journalist might do, but there aren't enough local journalists. So AI is filling in the gap here. So these are all ways that AI is helping citizens be better citizens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely like this example about having this information at your fingertips and also to participate in a deliberative process. The only problem, I think, is that sometimes, let's say you do participate in a deliberative process that is facilitated by AI, will the elected official, your representative, actually act upon the information that was just delivered? And I think we had this conversation recently with James Fishkin that, you need to tally the information and then you have to make it consequential. You have to actually make it matter that you participated in this process.
And this is a problem that AI doesn't solve, right? I mean, that's the human problem. I can build tech, but if you choose to ignore it, if you choose to use it to spy on your people, if you choose to use it to slip loopholes into legislation that are so subtle a human can't find it, the tech's not helping us here. The tech's hurting us here.
Yeah, I think this is maybe the fundamental disconnect with the way people think about AI today, is that they think that AI is going to do those things as opposed to AI helping you discern what matters to people and collect the information so that you can make a decision based on everything that you've just collected. One thing you mentioned earlier is that you welcome the use of AI to distribute power. That is for sure a pro-democracy lens. When you say distribute power, how do you imagine this to work?
So it depends on the technology. So let's talk about something we haven't talked about, is AI is being used in the legal profession. So an enormous number of startups right now building tools for lawyers, AI tools, to aid in discovery, analyzing documents, searching for precedent, writing briefs, figuring out how jurors are going to respond to different arguments, all sorts of tools. Some of them work well, some of them don't. They're getting better. But it's an interesting question to ask here, and how these tools will affect human attorneys. And there's one of two ways this could go. One, it could make the best attorneys even better. So if it does that, the more money you have, the better legal representation you get. The other way it could go is it can make the average attorney better. And if it does that, right, it distributes power. It means more of us have access to legal representation and access to justice. So how the technology works is very context dependent. And we often don't know how it could go. But there's an example of either the AI is going to increase the power imbalance by making the best attorneys even better and not affecting the average, or it's going to decrease the power imbalance by making all attorneys better. And the technology can go either way.
Well, as we know, AI is already showing up in our lives in not so great ways. For example, we're already seeing instances when AI is working against us, like in algorithmic bias in criminal justice. AI generated election disinformation or manipulative micro-targeting and political campaigns. How do you solve for that use of AI?
Because again, it's not the AI, it's the humans. So what's the difference if I create a fake ad using AI or actors on a soundstage? The problem is the fake ad, not that AI is doing it. And it's hard in the United States because we have very extreme free speech laws, but you can imagine rules about using fake imagery in campaign ads, right? Using actors or AI, not telling the truth. You could imagine those same laws in advertising where they're more common. So when you look at AI being used in this way, look at the people. Now, the difference is, of course, it's easier to create a fake ad using AI than actors on a soundstage. And that is now, again, going back to my four S's, the scale. The scale of AI-based fakery is just going to be greater than the scale of human-based fakery. And now the question is, what do we do about that? It's a hard problem. My hope is that we all get a nerd to it. When every high schooler makes deep fakes of their classmates all the time, we're just going to learn to recognize that, this stuff isn't necessarily real. On the other hand, it doesn't have to be any good. I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago, that video that was being passed around, supposedly of Nancy Pelosi being drunk. It was not a deep fake. It was a regular video that was slowed down. The term we use is a cheap fake. And it wasn't very convincing, yet it was shared around anyway. Because in a lot of these instances, the truth doesn't matter. And here I think we have a problem not of AI, but of social media, the business model of surveillance and manipulation that leads these companies to prioritize engagement, like number of minutes on the platform, and therefore extreme views and outrage and the kind of things that make you, stay on Facebook rather than go somewhere else. We have a lot of problems there that we haven't solved in the past 2 decades. Although we could easily, but we choose not to.
Right, right. Well, like you said, this is again a human problem. You talked about the US having extreme free speech laws and that we could do something about this. We could actually regulate the use of AI and tech industries. And actually, you say in your book also specifically, we should regulate to diversify control of AI. One existing AI regulation out there, of course, is the EU Artificial Intelligence Act. How can regulation ensure AI systems used in democracy are secure, unbiased, and transparent?
So a couple of things there. Bias is an interesting word. We use it when we don't like something, but the opposite of bias, the flip side of bias are values. I actually kind of want an AI that is biased towards fairness or justice or kindness, right? I mean, those are biases, but we like them. If the AI is being used by an individual, they're going to choose one whose biases matches their own. AI systems are starting to be used by judges to draft legal decisions. It's sort of an interesting use case. Before AI, they hired legal clerks to do that, and they hired biased legal clerks. I guarantee you. If you're a judge, you want a legal clerk whose biases matches your own. If you are racist, you want a racist legal clerk. If you are not racist, you want a non-racist legal clerk. So the judge will choose a biased AI system. And that's kind of okay. Right? We have the biased judge, and we're stuck with that. We're not going to fix that with the tech. So we allow judges to use their biases when they make decisions. It's different than an AI system being used in a broad societal application. I talked a bit about an AI being used to make benefits decisions. So there, we're going to want an AI that is objectively fair in some way of measuring that. And we're going to want it to be transparent. We're going to know what it does and why it does it and how it does it, because it's making decisions that affect everybody. And there, the way you do that is you mandate it. We can pass laws requiring AIs to be transparent. They're requiring testing, so its biases are known and compensated for if we need to. One of the things we talk about in the book, and I think is very important, is the notion of public AI. And this is an AI system that is not built by a for-profit corporation for their own benefit. Now, there's a lot of corporate AI out there, but we are starting to see public AI. Switzerland, about a month ago, released an AI system, I forget the name, that is public, that was built by a university there. It is transparent, it is open, it is fair, and it is a viable alternative to corporate AI systems. Singapore has built an AI model optimized for Southeast Asian languages. Again, not under the corporate model. And I'm not trying to replace corporate AI here, but I'm trying to build an alternative. So there is some non-corporate alternative that you can use if you choose. And that alternative, I think, will force corporate AI to be more open and transparent and unbiased, et cetera.
Tell us a little bit more about how public AI works. So it would be like a public version of ChatGPT, or is it a specific use that it's designed for? Can you tell us more?
So remember, ChatGPT is just one type of generative AI, which is just one type of AI. There's a lot of AI that has nothing to do with spewing words or building images. The AI that reads your chest x-ray is not generative, is not chatty. It's good at one thing, reading chest x-rays, and it does it very, very well. But these AI models, the two I talked about, Sea Lion in Singapore and the Swiss model, are generative systems. So they are systems that have been trained on large amounts of text, and they do produce text. They chat. And they were not built by corporations. What we're seeing, and sort of interesting to watch, is the cost to build these core models is going down. We learned that from the Chinese DeepSeek, because the US denied the Chinese access to the best chips to create a model. The human engineers were forced to innovate, and they designed new science to create a model without the benefit of the best technology. That's a published paper. We all learn from it. There's a lot of other things that can be done. So we are seeing models being made that are open source, that are free, that are public, that are not these very expensive models. Hugging Face is a French website that has open source models on it. Last time I looked, it was a couple of weeks ago, there were 2 million different AI models. Now, they are not all large general models, but some are. And we are learning how non-billion-dollar corporations can compete in this space.
Yeah, I wonder, do people know that it exists? Because, of course, I'm learning it from you. But if you're living in Singapore or in Switzerland, do you know you have access to this public AI? How do they disseminate this information to the public?
I don't know that. I mean, I know about it. I'm trying to talk about it. I think the Swiss model is one of the amazing things we've seen. I know that the Singaporeans are promulgating their model because it's optimized to the languages of the region. So there, I think it is getting more publicity inside Southeast Asia. Outside of Southeast Asia, I don't think it's getting as much publicity. But some of these are being designed for more limited use. I mentioned the French model, which is optimized for writing French legislation. Legislators are using it. There is a Chilean application of AI in the legislative process. They have some rule about having to publish the effects of a proposed law on other laws. And it's kind of an annoying requirement, but AIs are actually really good at it. So the AI is being used to study those kind of legislative interactions. I think a lot of this is just happening locally. The big language models, the big image generation models, they get the news, but a lot is happening that isn't that.
Well, my takeaway from our conversation so far is that there are a lot of people in there actually using AI for good within government and to make government legitimate, as I mentioned, and also that legislators are availing themselves of this tool in a way that is empowering and especially in the United States, takes away from lobbying groups like ALEC, who write a lot of legislation. I mean, we've seen in a lot of places at the state and local level where the local and state representatives would literally just copy and paste legislation from other people, including the typos. And this actually, of course, makes it so much better to be able to really write legislation that affects your locality. It should be really empowering for governments everywhere. So every week on Future Hindsight, I ask my guest to share a civic spark, one small step we can all take to be more empowered and ignite collective change. What's a good way to turn the insights that you've just shared with us into action?
One of the things I tell people is to not be afraid of the tools and to engage with them. There's a lot of ways these AI tools can do bad, but there's a lot that's good. And if we refuse to engage because of the bad, we miss out on the good. And I mean, there are a lot of simple ways AI is affecting your life. Your Google Maps, your Apple Maps. It's using AI to tell you when to turn left and when to turn right. That is a perfectly good and empowering and unharmful use of AI. I want these tools to be used to help people engage with their government. And whether it is research or some of these AI moderation tools or these systems that try to collect your preferences and help you be a better citizen, even something that helps you write a letter. I mean, I'm fine with assistive tech. And if an AI tool can make you write a more effective letter to your legislator about an issue you care about, that is an unmitigated win. And I want to see that happening. Right? I mean, if it's used by a big corporation to write 1 million letters pretending to be 1 million citizens, that's bad. But we already have that. So don't be afraid of the tools. There are good uses here, and engaging with them is a way to figure out what those are.
Amazing. Very good advice. Last question. Looking into the future, what makes you hopeful?
We're really seeing democracy on the ropes, and maybe, I mean, it really depends how deep into the fascist hellhole we descend. But we as humans have a way of muddling through. We figure it out. It might take us a while, but we have always figured out how to make our society more fair, more egalitarian, more prosperous, more inclusive. And I think we will do that again here. I think it will take a while. I think there's going to be some tumultuous years and decades, but I don't think this is the end. I think we're going to come through this with a better democracy.
Yeah, here.
I tend to be short-term pessimistic and long-term optimistic.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's a good frame. I believe this also, that we will muddle through. And I think the opportunity for us in this moment is to think and then execute on the kind of democracy we really do want, as opposed to, being passive bystanders and allowing it to, quote, happen to us. Thank you so much, Bruce, for joining me on Future Hindsight. It was really a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Bruce Schneier is an internationally renowned security technologist, chief of security architecture at Inrupt Inc., a lecturer at the Harvard Kennedy School, and the author of 14 books. His latest book is Rewiring Democracy: How AI Will Transform Our Politics, Government, and Citizenship. Remember, civic action doesn't have to be complicated. It's about small steps that spark progress, like sharing this episode with a friend. Let's recap this week's Civic Spark and fire up our collective power. Don't be afraid of these AI tools. Dive in and learn more about AI and how it's affecting your life, especially how it's affecting our democracy. Who knows? Maybe AI could help you write a better letter to your senator or city council member. It's not going anywhere, so let's make it work for us. Next time on Future Hindsight, we're joined by Pauline Hoffman. She's known as the data doyenne and has a unique blend of academic rigor and practical experience to demystify complex information and combat mis- and disinformation. Her book, Fake News, Witch Hunts, and Conspiracy Theories, teaches readers how to sort through the overwhelm and identify the truth within this infodemic. That's next time on Future Hindsight. Now, be sure to follow us on your podcast app so you'll never miss an episode. We are here to build your civic action toolkit every week. So follow Future Hindsight now and we'll come right to you. And if you want to support Future Hindsight and all the work we do as an independent pro-democracy podcast, follow us on Instagram at Future Hindsight Pod. It's easy and free and a great way to stay up to date on all things civic engagement. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, see clearly, act boldly, and spark the change you want to see. This episode was produced by Zack Travis and me.
This podcast is part of the Democracy Group.